Welcome to the Doktor O'Kay Show. I am Doktor O'Kay, and today is our recap of Survivor Series War Games from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And our main headline is, just keep getting a tidal wave of help. Boy, I wonder who that could be about. And we'll also touch on SmackDown from parts unknown yet again. So let's get to our first match where we just keep fouling off pitches until you can rip it. Because Rhea Ripley was the one who was able to absorb a whole bunch of bat shots, just fouling off those pitches until she was able to land a riptide off of the top rope and through a table to get the win for her team. And we'll first note there was a confrontation on SmackDown to start the show, with Rhea's team coming out to the middle of the ring saying that they wouldn't have any issues working together, but Nia came out to try to sow those seeds of doubt with pointing out all of the different issues the members had. And then when Liv went to the ring, she nearly started a fight, but she turned around and walked away, so Rhea said she was not going to wait, so all of them attacked the other team. But because Rhea's team instigated it, all 5 of them will pick up fines, but because of the WWE officials breaking it up very quickly, we're gonna give this a not okay. And Rhea and her team are the ones, as Rhea was able to shed her protective mask, which I have to say looked awfully cool to begin with, but I guess she didn't need it, as she was able to land some headbutts even after taking it off, so I guess she is fully healthy from that injury. So let's talk about each member of the team very quickly. Bayley was the Iron Woman of the match as she started it off, and she was even able to absorb an Oblivion off of a chair with a little bit of help from her team to stay alive. Naomi invoked a little potty humor into this one as she put the toilet seat on top of Nia's head and then did a stink face through that toilet. Bianca and Naomi performed a double powerbomb on Nia through a table to eliminate that threat, and Io yet again had the move of the match as she climbed to the top of the cage, put on the trash can yet again, and this time delivered an over the moonsault to knock out everyone on that side of the ring. But Liv's team is the twos, as Nia started this off, which was probably a good move as she displayed a lot of power all the way throughout, so she had better stamina than you might think. But as usual, she gloated a little bit too much before an Annihilator, so she went through that table. Candice she was just kind of there, so we'll move on. It was Tiffy, though, who decided to try to match Io with a very pretty swanton bomb off of the top of the cage onto everyone on that side of the room at the same time. But it was her failed cash-in attempt yet again. That was her main blunder here, as she had both Liv and Nia down in the ring, but she stood there and waited for way too long, and her hopes were extinguished by Io with a fire hydrant. Raquel failed in her one job to protect Liv by getting herself handcuffed to the rope, so then Liv Morgan, even swinging a baseball bat over and over, was not much like Juan Soto, as Corey Graves said, but instead was a lot more like Cole Tucker, who you may have seen on Monday Night Raw, as he is usually striking out at the plate, though admittedly he hit a grand slam when it came to finding a wife. But back to Liv, all of those bat shots just didn't do much damage at all to Rhea, so in the end, she took that riptide through a table to take a loss for her team. So there were a lot of entertaining moments here, but it was so disjointed, we will stick with just an okay. In our second match, we just keep tapping into that samurai Shinsuke, as Nakamura wins 2 matches in 2 nights to become your new United States champion. But first on SmackDown, he defeated Andrade by exposing the top turnbuckle, so when Andrade went for a Meteora, he hit his head, and Nakamura finished him off with a Kinshasa, which was Nakamura's first win since February. But Andrade was his usual self, but it didn't work out yet again as he's lost 4 decisions in a row and falls to 7-6-1. And then after the match, Knight came out to try to even the score a bit after the previous 2 weeks, but when he swung, Nakamura was ready with a mist on him. So even though Knight was the instigator, he took all of the punishment and was hurting the rest of the night, but Knight will also get his 6th fine, and this SmackDown match will get an okay. But at Survivor Series, Nakamura is the ones as he kept Knight off guard for most of the match, and he showed some good viciousness and cunning as he was able to rake Knight's eyes and then slam his face onto the metal strip between the 2 rings and finished him off with a Kinshasa. So Nakamura is now a 3-time United States champion, and by winning 2 matches in 2 nights, he goes to 3-6 in one-on-one matches. But for LA Knight, he just could not find his footing in this one, and he did land his megastar elbow drop off of the top rope, but just took way too long to try a BFT, so he paid for it, and he falls after 7 successful title defenses and is now 14-4 in one-on-one matches. And because Knight just never seemed to have it in this one, and we go back to our old axiom of saying if you give someone a chance who doesn't deserve it, they just might win. So we have to give this a not okay. In our 3rd match, we just keep out-banging the bangers as Braun Breaker retained his title after landing back-to-back spears on Kaiser and Sheamus. So Breaker is the ones, and he may have gotten a little lucky here as he took a chair to the head after he missed a spear and then was immediately hit with a brogue kick, but he was saved by his own enemy, Ludwig Kaiser, when he pulled the ref out of the ring, and after several minutes down, he recovered at just the right time to hit those 2 spears to retain the title for his 2nd title defense, and he's now won 4 out of his last 5 matches, and surprisingly enough, this was his first multi-person singles match since the Royal Rumble, so he's 1-1 in these types of matches. And Ludwig Kaiser is the 2s, and he was pretty good for his first PLE singles match, and he hit a running dropkick on Sheamus and even pulled out Sheamus's own shillelagh and whacked him with it over and over and over again, but in the end, he paid for it with a spear as well, and though he wasn't pinned, his win from Monday Night Raw is wasted, and he falls to 0-3 in multi-person singles matches, so that means Sheamus is the 3s, and he did have the fun move of the match, popping up creepily behind the barricade to land the 10 beats of the Bowron on Kaiser, but unfortunately this win was stolen from him when Kaiser ripped the referee out of the ring after he hit that brogue kick on Breaker, and unfortunately for him it's more of the same old as he fails yet again to win the IC title and falls to 0-4 in multi-person singles matches. But this may have been the match of the night, so it gets a double okay. In our 4th match, we just keep cracking that wishbone as Gunther worked on Damian Priest's injured shoulder over and over and over again until he finally put him into a tryptophan-like nap to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. So Gunther is the ones, and even though he started a little tentatively, he quickly found his confidence when he saw that Priest was injured, and he just kept on grinding on that shoulder to control almost all of this match. But it wasn't quite as clean of a victory as he would like, as Finn Balor yet again came out of the crowd to land a coup de grace on Priest as he was laying on the floor. So Balor will have to pick up a 1-week suspension, which is his 8th suspension of the year for interfering in a championship match. But for Gunther, with that sleeper victory, this is his 3rd successful title defense, and he goes to 13-2 in one-on-one matches. And for Damian Priest, he is the 2s as a slightly off shoulder block cost him, injuring that shoulder that he couldn't overcome as he was unable to do most of his power moves throughout the match. And even worse, he cannot shake the Judgment Day yet again, so back to the drawing board. He's now 11-4 in one-on-one matches. but due to this interference when it looked like Gunther didn't even need it, this is getting a not okay. And that takes us back to the main event and our main headline, where we just keep getting a tidal wave of help as Roman Reigns spears CM Punk, but Punk still saved him from the biggest tsunami ever, and then Reigns took all the glory for himself after everybody else landed their finishers first, so he got the final spear on Sikoa and the pin to win the match for the OG Bloodline. But we first got to this through SmackDown with Jacob Fatu taking on Jey Uso for the War Games advantage, and Fatu earned the advantage by showing he really is the werewolf of WWE with an Impaler DDT and Mighty Moonsault to win the match. That was amazingly his first one-on-one match, so he is impressively, very impressively, very impressively. Now, want to know, and Jey Uso, he's actually lost 2 one-on-one matches now in a row, so he is 12-6, but because Fatu was amazing, double okay. Also on SmackDown, we did have a sit-down between Roman Reigns and CM Punk, with Paul Heyman moderating this one, and Punk agreed to work with Reigns, but Heyman would be the one to owe him a favor. And then Reigns asked Heyman what that favor was. Heyman did not say, and only said that they could talk about it later. So pretty intriguing now that Punk has in fact saved Reigns, so double okay for this one as well. Alright, let's hit everyone in this Survivor Series War Games match. Jey Uso started and fought very hard throughout this one and worked in unison back on the same side as brother Jimmy. And speaking of Jimmy, he had the move of the match, jumping off the top of the cage with an Uso splash through a table to completely wipe Fatu off the board. Sami Zayn showed that he had some good synergy still with the Usos, but admittedly he mostly just survived this one. CM Punk twice turned the tide of this match completely around, as when he entered, he grabbed a toolbox and hit everybody on the other side with it. And as we said, he pulled Roman Reigns off of the table to save him by a short death by tsunami, even after Reigns had already speared Punk just a few minutes earlier. And then for Reigns, well, he did somehow successfully enter over the top of the cage. I guess he had the high ground, but he somehow managed to fight off all 5 members of the New Bloodline squad 1-on-5 for a few moments, so that was pretty impressive. But he didn't actually do much after that, and did eventually contribute a little bit with a low blow and a spear, but he did take 3 Samoan spikes. And the New Bloodline is the twos, with Tama Tonga starting this one off and proving to be a good utility man, helping out wherever it was needed. Big Bronson Reed was next, and he went for the Grand Slam with a tsunami off of the top of the cage, but Punk pulled Reigns off, so he crashed through the table and was out for the rest of the match, and we'll see just how long this keeps him out, because he's surely injured after that. Then Jacob Fatu stole the show over and over again with his athleticism that no one should have at his size, but he missed a mighty moonsault that injured his knee, and that may have turned the tide on this complete match, as he eventually took that Uso splash through a table. Tonga Loa was nothing flashy but sneakily effective, as when he entered, it was finally the time when the New Bloodline completely turned this into a one-sided massacre. And Solo Sikoa quickly brought order to this match like a true tribal chief, barking out orders to all of his soldiers, and they hit finisher after finisher after finisher. But unfortunately, his move locking Roman Reigns out of the cage didn't work, but he still got the better of Reigns, landing 3 Samoan spikes on him. And then when everything went against him after Reed and Fatu were injured, he still went down with the ship like a true captain, trying to go 1-on-5 directly right at Roman Reigns, but it was the Usos that kicked him from the side that finally put this one to bed. And even though it was those missed moves and injuries to Reed and Fatu that completely changed this one around, we're gonna give this one an okay. So let's go to SmackDown very quickly, where we just keep winning despite being wrong, as Carmelo Hayes rightly called out Rhodes yet again, saying that Rhodes would stab you in the heart, as he did to KO. But Rhodes is still just a better wrestler right now, as he hit a Cody Cutter and a Crossroads to get the win, continuing his amazing winning streak. He is 14-1 in one-on-one matches, while Carmelo Hayes has now dropped 3 singles matches in a row, falling to 5-9-2 in one-on-one matches. Unfortunately, there was really just nothing to this one, so it gets a not okay. And lastly, in the US Women's Title Tournament, we just keep out-sentoning the competition because Piper missed a senton on Lash that allowed her to hit a Lash extension, but Michin took an advantage and went to the top rope and senton both of them and stole that pin to advance to the semifinals. So Michin is the ones, and amazingly, she's on a 4-match winning streak and is now 1-3 in multi-person singles matches. Lash replaced the injured Jade Cargill, but couldn't quite get it done as she goes to 0-2 in multi-person singles matches. And yet again, Piper could not take advantage of interference by Chelsea, as B-Fab broke it up and threw Chelsea into the ring post, and then those two fought all the way up the ramp. So Piper loses yet again, falling to 0-4 in multi-person singles matches and 0-10 in all singles matches. But this was a lively event, so we will give this an okay. Beyond the mat for SmackDown, just 2 quick things. Tommaso Ciampa yelled at Johnny Gargano, saying that he needs to figure things out quickly and is only giving him 1 week to do so, or Ciampa's gonna take this one into his own hands. And with that very intense talk, this one's getting an okay. And lastly, KO brought the receipts, throwing 3 of many instances of Roman Reigns trying to end his career. So not looking very good for you now, Cody, huh? Not at all. So nonetheless, that is exactly what I would do if I were KO, and I guess that is exactly what I did in my video showing why Roman Reigns cannot win anything without help. So of course, this one gets a double okay. And we're not even going to mention what Otis did at Survivor Series. So it was Liv and Solo who barely survived vicious attacks at Survivor Series. And if you want to see if the SportsZu survived his betting picks, go right on over to here, because just like most of the weekend, I bet that those were okay.